on Instagram. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome, welcome. All right. I think we are live. Yay. All right. Hello, everybody. We are live all over the place, all over the internet, including Instagram. It looks like it is working. Bravo. Well, happy Thursday to you. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. And greetings from Salida, Colorado. I am doing this video from Salida, Colorado, the beautiful part of the country. Lots of beautiful, gigantic mountains. Uh, Incredible. So, welcome to the Live with Leslie, and really looking forward to our conversation today. Today, we'll be chatting with my wonderful client, Dr. Mandy Patterson, and we will be talking about the 3 lies you've been told about your fertility. So, I love this topic. So, we are going to have a candid conversation about the lies, the taboos, and the societal pressures surrounding fertility, ultimately with the goal to help you to navigate this whole terrain. All right. And honestly, either you yourself, maybe a family member, a sister, right? Or possibly with your own patients. So, again, welcome to Live with Leslie. And just so you know, I'm Leslie Vitale, and I am a practice growth expert and mentor. And I specifically work with health professionals in private practice, helping my clients to attract more right fit clients and sell more programs and ultimately grow a profitable practice. So, with that little bit of background, let's go ahead and jump in, shall we? And guys, bear with me. I know my voice doesn't sound too great today. So, just kind of on the tail end of a little bit of a cold. So, bear with the voice. I actually feel a lot better than I probably sound. So, you know how that is. All right, Mandy, I'm so happy to have you here with me today. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how did you end up as a naturopathic doctor working in this particular area?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Leslie. I've been super excited about this. So initially back 22 years ago, I actually had my first son. He was born at 28 weeks and ended up being a 1 pound, 14 ounce preemie. I actually was in occupational therapy school back then, and I was finishing up my rotations and suddenly got sick and ended up in the hospital. And it was a lot of touch and go there for about a week. They weren't sure if I was going to survive. But we both came through, and actually it's been a miracle to watch him grow. He's actually 22 now and is a theology major at Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. But so that kind of set the stage for me as a new mom in navigating, obviously having a chronically ill baby, because he was on oxygen for a period of time, ended up with an ileostomy because of he had a infection called necrotizing enterocolitis that he ended up requiring multiple bowel surgeries. But that kind of set the stage. And back then they had told me, and I say they, doctors and specialists had said that I probably would never go on to have any more children. And if I did, it would probably result in miscarriages. And so it was really kind of a dim outlook, right? And I was always that type of person that wanted several kids at least. And so that was a bit of a blow for me. But that kind of started me down my path in more naturopathic and functional medicine and even genetics back then, which, for many of us, like that wasn't even something that we'd even heard of, maybe a naturopath, but not functional medicine. So that brought me on my journey, and I continued to learn and went back to school and got a doctorate in naturopathy, and then did do 2 board certifications in functional medicine in the last decade. So yeah.
Amazing level of training.
Yeah.
So, and P.S., you must have cracked the code because you have 6 kids.
I figured it out. I always been that type of person. When somebody tells me I'm not going to do something, I do the opposite of it.
I
So,
love
yes.
that attitude so, so much. I can
Yeah,
very much relate. A little bit of like rebelliousness there, right? Like, no,
absolutely.
it's not happening.
Yes.
I love it. So, okay, so you were an OT, right? So
Yes.
you finished your OT training, which is amazing in of itself.
Yep.
I'm very familiar with, the work that amazing work that OTs do.
Yeah.
So was it because of this experience with your son? Is that what prompted you to get your doctorate in
It
naturopathy?
It was, and, like, I think back then I was just, like, struggling for answers and continuing to bump against the wall of conventional medicine when, like, they're like, "Oh, you've got menstrual cycle issues or PMS, take some birth control," and it just seemed so reactive to me, and I didn't like that, and honestly, my journey as an OT, I worked for over 22 years in all sectors of healthcare, and when I say that, I worked in acute and subacute setting. I worked in the ICUs. I worked in assisted living and did early intervention. So really have seen it all. And even out of my own work that I've done with my patients back then, I was like, I really wanted to spend more time with them. And we were dictated by the system by putting in our units that were broken down into 7 to 12 minute increments, and I just really struggled with the system. It was very frustrating to me. And then obviously too, like you said, I do have 6 kids, and my oldest has had a lot of health challenges we've had to navigate, and I've had to figure it out from a holistic side of things. And then I have a couple that have had really significant learning disabilities. And
Mm.
so really just having to put on that hat of advocate is just kind of ingrained in me. So,
Definitely, you are a definitely a caregiver
yeah.
and a very well-trained problem solver, I might add, which we'll get more into that. But your level of education is, and just training is really spectacular. Okay, so you moved into the area of fertility. You definitely cracked the code,
Yes.
right? On
Yes.
your own situation, 6 kids later. So let's dig right in. What are some of those lies that we kind of teased in the title of this live stream?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a big piece of my story obviously goes back to my genetics, right? And when I started digging in and learning more about my own unique bio individuality, because in holistic naturopathic functional medicine, that's what we do. We look at people as like they're unique, and you're a case study of one, right?
Mhm.
So back then, like, I really started learning more about who I was and, like, my own DNA, and found out like I had some genetic SNPs that put me more at risk for like early preeclampsia, like issues with methylation. And when I say methylation for the average layperson, that's like detoxification and like the unique nutrients that I need for my body. And so, unfortunately, I think the picture has been painted in conventional medicine that many women, like, they are born with whatever they're born with, and that there's nothing that they can do about it. But that's such a misconception, because we do know now that, lifestyle is like huge. It's like 80%. And then our genetics are a much smaller percentage. And it's what we do in our daily life that is going to impact those genes and that dynamic interplay between them. So that's like one myth, like I really work through with women and empowering them to take back their health, and to like really approach things from a curious mindset, right? Because even you and I, going back into the 70s and the 80s, whenever like we were being raised, and you know women are not told about body literacy. Like, we do sex education in middle school and high school, but like we don't really understand the unique anatomy and physiology of our bodies. And so when we can be equipped with that knowledge, then that gives us power to figure out, well, okay, so what foods work best for me? Like, what type of exercise should I like do on a daily basis, or based upon our monthly cycle, right? So there's a lot there just with genetics and digging into that.
I love it. Okay, so all right, so that's the first lie, right? I think we've got two
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So another one that I see all of the time, obviously working in the infertility space, is, couples will come to me and the female has been like a pincushion, like, so many tests and has had to undergo so many diagnostic procedures. And so many times, like there's not even been a semen analysis done on the male. And, we know that the American Society for Reproductive Medicine has said that male factor infertility is the cause of 40 to 50% of cases. So in my own practice, like I approach infertility from a couple standpoint, right? It's not just the female. It obviously takes two to tangle. We all know that. And, really figuring out, okay, with their unique dispositions, like how can we like optimize their health and their fertility for better outcomes. So, and I like to like use the example of like if you're going to bake a cake, like you want to make sure you have like all the ingredients, right? Like you can't bake a cake with just like butter and flour and not add in your sugar and like all of those other things. So and that like resonates for people. And it's also like this puzzle piece, right? Like from a functional side of things and a functional lens is like getting to the root cause. And there's parts of a puzzle that fit together. And so pretty much in the functional and naturopathic space, like we are like going in like detectives and trying to figure out, from a lab work side of things and a health history side of things, like what's going on.
Okay. I love that. All right. So what's the third?
Yeah. So the third
line?
Yeah, this is one that's like a lot of people would resonate with, right? Like, so from the time that we're young, like, we enter, adolescence, a lot of females have issues with heavy, painful periods and bleeding, even irregularity. They might have acne. And the first thing that usually happens when you go to the OBGYN is they hand you a script for birth control, right? So, that is a huge thing. And like fertility drugs, birth control are not the most effective ways to solve imbalances in the bodies. And like, they can be used as tools, like in unique cases, but it shouldn't be the first line of defense when we're like working on like balancing our hormones. Because honestly, what we end up doing is suppressing our hormones, and then we can end up with gut dysfunction. I'm sure like many listeners have heard of leaky gut. And leaky gut happens over time when we just in its general life, right? We, crap foods, stress, toxins all take a toll on that intestinal lining. And what happens is our body starts to develop almost like these like little micro tears in like the lining, and then it sets us up for more food sensitivities and challenges with different kinds of foods. And it's not that those foods are bad, it's just there's been damage done to the gut that needs repair. So, and like other things too are nutrient deficiencies I see all of the time with women that are taking drugs and pharmaceuticals, oral birth control, that ends up really like wearing down that adrenal thyroid system, which, the thyroid is so instrumental in our metabolism and our mitochondrial health, which, goes back to mitochondria, the powerhouse of our cells. And then too, a lot of times I see with women, a lot of mood issues like depression, anxiety. And we don't make that connection like right off the bat that, oh, well, we've been on oral birth control for 10 years. Now others are more sensitive and notice that, but that's like another one.
Oh, so interesting. Yeah, the pill seems to be still all these decades later, like the answer for like in air quotes, right?
Right.
For almost everything having to do with, period issues, pain, PMS, acne,
Yeah. And it's the same thing even with women as we enter perimenopause into menopause. Like that the first option presented will be, well, let's put you on some hormones, right? But we're not really digging into what the root cause of the
Right.
challenges are. And some women might need hormone support, but I tend to think that as being like the last option, because you want to do so many other things to optimize health first
I
before
agree.
you go to that, because the hormones are the downstream impact of everything upstream. So you've got to go up and figure out from a stress side of things, how's that impacting the unique body in that individual. And then you have to look at the gut. The gut is such a huge most people don't realize this, but the gut is literally like our second brain. Like it is a huge portion of our immune system is in there. Many of our neurotransmitters, including serotonin, are generated in the gut. And that has a real impact on that gut brain connection and immune health.
Right. Okay, we got a couple comments. Unfortunately, I can't see who this is, but someone that's joining us is concurring, not a huge fan of the pill, and definitely looking at
Yeah.
the root cause. And so wouldn't you say that's like the main, I mean, the main difference or one of
Yeah.
the core differences between the more conventional approach as compared to the functional approach, right? We're
Right.
trying to uncover the root cause. And then you had mentioned, looking at the impact that some of these medications might have on a person, and it
Yes.
sounded like a lot of that is based in their genetics. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So like and I have a lot of insight in with the mental health background as well. And different mental health issues and challenges, and many times, like, yeah, we do have unique snips that make us more prone to challenges. And this is just my own self, like an example. But even last year, like, I'm in that perimenopausal like phase because I'm close to 44. And I work out in the morning, and so what I was doing was, like, I would take my kids to school, I would be intermittent fasting, and then I would do like a high intensity interval training workout because I like Orange Theory. And what I was noticing, I was waiting to eat later in the day, but it was my blood pressure did not like that.
Oh,
So what I know about myself, because I know my DNA, is I have a couple SNPs that make me more prone to have higher blood pressure dynamics, and I've got issues with aldosterone. And
interesting.
so there's some different things that you can do. But for me, in that phase of life and where I was at, it wasn't working. So I think that is like a real important piece for women to be tuned into their bodies and know those vital signs, be that your blood pressure, your pulse. Like, the menstrual cycle is such a vital sign that has been like not discussed. And if we're having regular periods that are pretty manageable, that's a really good window into like how things are going for us overall. And even though we're talking about fertility today, fertility is like our level of fertility when we're in our 20s into our 40s is a great window into how we're going to age gracefully from a menopausal side of things as well. So if we correct these things earlier and earlier and have that body literacy knowledge, it really can help us optimize our health into our 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond.
Who would have known? Right?
I know, right?
Seriously.
I can't hear you. Oh, you're back.
Somehow I muted myself. I don't know.
Okay. Yay. I missed
I'm talking away.
That's okay. I was like, I missed you, what you're saying.
Um, Yeah, so it's just interesting how, just kind of historically, the pill, like in my experience, and gosh, even the generation of my daughter, right? It's like the pill is kind of the answer for everything.
Yes.
There's no discussion whatsoever of, hey, you know what? We kind of need to take a look at what's going on because that could have an impact on your, years later.
Exactly. Right. And that's where like genetics, like, cause I do a lot of that testing in my practice can
Mhm.
be so helpful to know, what is our unique makeup
Right.
and how can that help us and support us as we go throughout these decades of life, right? And set us up from, offsetting like issues with dementia and Alzheimer's and all of those things. So,
So, what are some of the specific challenges that you help your patients with?
yeah, so that's a great question. So, like most people, I'm usually a last resort
Oh,
when people
that's
do
so
find.
unfortunate.
Yeah, and it's just because our system has not been designed to help people optimize their health, right? It's such a reactionary system. And so, for me, I like I said and commented early, I'm like a detective, right? So I do an extremely thorough health history going back to their birth because, that gives me really some clues on what we're dealing with like 30, 40 years later.
Mhm.
And so, I have great insight with basic lab work and use a lot of different functional tests in my practice that most people are not going to be able to get from their doctor because they don't know anything about them. But in my unique process, I love to look and see what's going on with the full thyroid panel, adrenals, the microbiome, knowing what's going on there because if there's imbalances or dysbiosis that it can really impact fertility and hormones. And then also too, like sometimes people have parasites or like
Right.
other sort of bacterial fungal overgrowths that really can impede optimal digestion and health throughout the body. And then too, like another thing is to like it's helpful to see a nutrient profile on people to see, what are they deficient in? Like what do they need more of? And really just kind of teasing away all of that. It's kind of like peeling the layers back of an onion to get down to the root. So,
Exactly. I
yeah.
love that. So interesting, especially the genetics. And I know you've got an amazing amount of training in
Yeah.
this specific area, which is so, so cool. Okay. So, all right, let's dig in a little bit on how, if you can explain, I'm sure you can, how
Yeah.
a holistic approach to fertility can complement traditional fertility treatments, and
Yeah.
maybe a little bit about what the key factors, of consideration are in this
Yeah,
area.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I think the thing is that's been a challenge in the space for so long is conventional medical providers don't know enough about alternative medicine and complementary approaches to be able to like offer insight for their patients. And then two, like then you kind of have the other side of the coin with functional or naturopathic doctors that are kind of weary of the conventional system and like we can be
Mhm.
called the woo woo and the fringe, right?
Right.
So I'm like kind of in the middle because I've been trained in conventional medicine, but then I've also been trained in naturopathic and functional medicine. So here's the thing, like there are amazing things that medical technology has created, right? And like
Mhm.
I really owe it to science that my son survived 22 years ago
Yes.
because he was on life support for many months, underwent like really serious surgeries, and had we not had the medical advancements and specialists that were able to care for him, he would not have survived.
Mhm.
So in the fertility space and arena, some women have and men have structural issues that are impeding their ability to get pregnant. In fact, I met with a couple days ago. She actually had a ectopic pregnancy and had a tube removed. And
Oh,
so now we're working on
oh,
getting her pregnant with one tube, right? So that's like a piece. And then like as we age, women are waiting later to get pregnant because of careers and other factors. And so, like I love to tell people that fertility does not fall off of a cliff. Like it is multiple ways in which we live our lives that impacts our fertility and hormones. So, but when women are inching towards 38 years of age, they have less and less eggs left, and so that is where assistive reproductive technology can come in, such as IVF, IUI, and some of these other procedures that can be beneficial. But the thing is too is I really help my women understand, even if they're going through assistive reproductive technology, they're wanting to optimize their egg health and their body in preparation for that baby. And it's really helpful to start at least 3 to 4 months in advance of optimizing health with diet, lifestyle factors to really give them the best outcomes. So I think that, I really feel like I serve as a voice to say, let's bridge all of this together, leverage what we have done with medical advancements, and then also use simple tools to help couples optimize fertility.
Okay. And do you find that nowadays women are more, I don't know, like motivated? Is that the word? Inspired to really start improving their health 3 months before conception?
I think so. I think we're starting to see a shift. And I
Shift.
think the whole COVID era has woken people up to the fact that what we're doing in conventional medicine is not helping a lot of things, right? So people are more aware. There's obviously more things out there from a resource side of things on the internet. There's podcasts that people are listening to.
Mhm.
And they're starting to really realize, okay, wait, I think the tide is turning and I really need to think more about this. And, that can like really save couples time and money too, starting with the foundations of health, which can be and seem so simplistic.
Mhm.
But, really, and that's like another piece is that couples can sometimes wait too long to seek services. And so like if you're in your teens and into your 20s or 30s and you've had hormonal imbalances or issues with your periods, if you've had a history of PCOS or endometriosis, even hypothyroidism and like autoimmunity, then it really serves to like find somebody from a natural, like more functional perspective that can help you get a hold on that and really optimize outcomes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say some of the main SNPs are genetically, that are like, okay, we need to really hone in on this? I mean, would you say the methylation SNPs?
Yeah, the
For sure.
methylation snips are big. Especially like, and this is one that many have heard about is the MTHFR,
Yeah.
which basically has to do with folate and B12.
Okay.
And a lot of times, like, knowing that, like, that means that those people don't process folic acid
Mhm.
well. And I'm actually one of those. And those women have more issues with miscarriages
Mm.
and early preterm births. So that's like one specific one. And I like to preface like, we have like 20,000 genes, right? So like you can't just blame like our health outcomes on one or two SNPs.
Right.
But like even from a like a blood pressure standpoint, there's unique SNPs there that can be problematic in women. Even men need more nutrients that are supportive of those things. There's even some magnesium and vitamin D SNPs that are helpful to know because sometimes, like even in my own practice, I'll see women come and they've got really low rock bottom vitamin D levels.
Mm.
And that actually can drive more autoimmunity. And so, really, like working on the diet, getting out in the sunshine whenever the sun's out to get your 20 minutes of vitamin D through your skin, because that's how we convert, can be really valuable. And then like for our ladies that struggle with like weight, and even like blood sugar issues and like PCOS, like the testing that I do can really like tease that out.
Okay.
And in fact, in my own, because I've done testing on my kids as well. So we have it's called the snacking genes,
Oh,
where
what
we
is that?
can, yeah, so like we're basically like don't feel full, like, so we continue
Ah,
to snack and graze, and that can cause real issues with blood sugar
hmm.
and make us more prone to be heavier, because we eat more calories because our body doesn't have that.
Not sensing the satiety, right?
Yeah, so it's like with that leptin ghrelin
Okay.
dynamic there, and so that's one thing that I'm really passionate about people knowing about, because had I known some of these things back before I'd gotten pregnant, I might have not had to have a premature baby that spent
Mm,
5 months in the hospital, you
right.
know? So,
As
and
they
so I kind of
say,
learned the hard way.
hindsight, right?
Yes.
2020, of course. Yeah. And how old is your son now? He's in
He's
college,
22.
right?
He's
Okay.
22. Yeah.
So yeah, close to my son in age. Yeah. So, but I gotta tell you, back then, I don't know about you, but genetics, I
Yeah.
just like, was it even on the playing field at all?
No, it's literally been in the last 5 to 10 years, and a piece here that I'd like to tell people and educate them on is make sure you do your DNA with a trusted source, right?
Mm.
23andMe is kind of the
Oh,
easy
true.
one to do, and you end up getting back the raw data, but what we know is like it's only probably 50% accurate.
Oh,
So like the one company that I work with, it's 95% accurate, so we know
okay.
that. And it's a team of researchers that are actually researching these SNPs, that are
Mhm.
looking at longitudinal research studies, and really good quality studies to tease out like, well, what is most pertinent for me right now in this moment,
Okay.
right? So in another piece, like this came up with my 22-year-old. He has a lot of like muscle fatigue, and he works out,
Mhm.
and like for years has complained to me about that, and I thought, well, get yourself some more magnesium, or like,
Right.
and so what we found out when we actually did his DNA is that we both have a SNP that makes us more prone to really pretty significant muscle fatigue.
Oh,
And so
interesting.
there's some things that you can do like supplementally. So like we take ribose before we work out,
Huh,
because
okay.
that can help with the mitochondrial output, lessen the muscular issues, the muscular pain afterwards.
Mhm.
So,
Well, incidentally, I have a story, a personal story about a genetic error, okay,
oh,
in my
yes,
test, okay?
yes,
So I'll share this just briefly. I don't wanna mention company names though, guys. I'm not comfortable with that. But, let me just say that I have done quite a few genetic tests on myself, right?
yes,
We're always our own guinea pig, right?
yes, totally.
And, like, so the gene, it's the ApoE. Pretty
Yes,
big deal, right?
yep, it is a
Pretty
big
big
deal.
deal. Let's just call it what it is. So I had 2 other companies that said, "You're good, you're a 3-3." And for those of you that are with us today, a 3-3, for the most part, I think you're in good shape, right?
Yeah,
So you're not at, elevated risk for early onset Alzheimer's, right?
right.
So that's what that gene is all about. So I tested with another company, a 3rd company, and I get the results and it says I'm a 3-4. Like, "Oh my gosh, what is happening here?" So anyway, I've been thinking for the last 10 years, "I'm good, no worries there." And then I get a 3-4, ooh. So anyway, the long and short is that I really insisted that they retest because 'cause I'm like, "Someone's wrong here. Who
Right.
is it?
Yep.
I hope it's you," because for obvious reasons. So
Yeah.
they end up retesting, and lo and behold, they made an error.
Okay.
That's a
Okay.
pretty big deal.
That is a
It's
big deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think they have changed their process for reporting that particular SNP. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
So anyway, really, I was just shocked,
Yeah.
like, I gotta admit, I was very relieved, but at the same time, a little, I don't know, a little
Hesitant, I
uncomfortable.
know. Well, I mean, I'm so glad you caught it. I mean,
Yeah, I
that
pushed
is
it.
that's a big deal.
So
Um,
I emailed them the first time and I was like, "Okay, guys, something's not right here." And they really dug their heels in. "No, no, this is it. This is correct." And then I did find, I found I couldn't remember, like, because it's been over a span of 10 years.
yeah,
So I did find the results for the 2 companies, and, I'm like, "Okay, you guys should retest because
yeah.
2 big companies say I'm a 3.3, you say I'm a 3.4, let's redo this." So
Well, and I think too that even leads into like making sure that you partner with a good solid company that's not selling
Mhm.
your data, because 23andMe, they
Right.
are selling off our data to China and other places. And so that is a real cause for concern. And so just
Yeah.
being like smart about it
Yeah.
and figuring out what works best for you. But
Yeah, what is your preferred genetic company?
yeah, so I have used 3x4, so I'm a practitioner with them. I really do like their report. It's affordable for
Yeah,
most, right?
it is.
So it's like $350, $400, and you can get really great insight. But I actually have trained with Intellex DNA.
Mhm,
So they are phenomenal. I work closely with them. And actually, Sharon Cohan, who's the chief medical officer, was just on the Mark Hyman podcast about 3 weeks ago talking about Intellex.
mhm.
But they have the team of researchers behind the scenes looking at things, and they have different medical. They've got different medical panels that you can use, or you can do all of the panels. And so they've got like the mental health one, like that even digs into like the early Alzheimer's, like you were talking about with the
Yes.
APOE3 and 4. And then they've got like a medical panel that like, so if you were to go in for surgery, they would know what your unique genetics
Hmm.
need, which can save a lot, save an anesthesiologist.
Wow,
Um,
for
yeah,
surgery.
yeah.
Wow.
So that's another benefit of it. And then like there's an autism and ADHD panel, and they are coming out, which I'm going to be a beta tester for as a practitioner, but they are getting ready to come out with the whole female panel here at the second part of the year.
Okay.
So but the thing that makes them unique is they will give you actually for your genetic SNPs. Recommendations around nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals, herbs, to really
Wow.
optimize. So it's really customized.
Okay.
And
And they're
yeah,
called Intellex.
Intellex DNA.
Okay.
Yep.
Intellex DNA.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I love that.
And that's,
Um,
it's a much bigger investment if you're going to do the executive report.
okay.
But I tell people, I'm like, it's an you have to look at
Yeah.
it as an investment, and it's not going, your DNA is not going to change, right? So you'll always have that.
Yes.
And it really does give important clues as to why your unique body is the way it is, right? And it
Right.
also, I feel like for me, it made me feel better because like weight has always been a struggle for me from the time I was little onwards. And, we can kind of beat ourselves up like,
Oh,
well, I'm
yeah.
doing all these things. Why am I not, but even on the 3x4, like it came back like I can't remember how exactly it was said, but it was like severe inability to lose weight or something like
Oh,
that. Like,
wow.
you
Oh
know,
my
yeah.
gosh.
But
And
framing
that
it
makes it
for
so
women,
hard.
yeah, but framing it for women around, I actually was like one of the ones that survived the famines. Like, us being able to hold on to body weight
Yeah.
is it's a gift,
Yeah.
but we just need to know how to like leverage it and to optimize it, right? So, I'm never going to be a thin person, but I strive to be like metabolically healthy and fit and strong. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, I learned a ton on my 3x4 results
yeah,
as well.
it's
Um,
great.
definitely detox is my top issue.
Yes.
And, but kind of funny is like from an athletic performance
Yeah.
perspective, I learned that like, huge potential. So
Right.
like huge,
Yes.
like, kind of over the top potential. So,
That's
but
so cool. So that's your superpower.
that's my superpower, but the limiting variable is it said that I injure easily.
I
So,
have that
you know
same
what I mean?
issue. And I'm like mine, I'm like, I'm always the last person to come in the mile, the run for the mile. I've always been like the last person.
Yeah.
But I am incredibly strong. And like,
Mhm.
so that and but then like you said, because I do a lot of hit training, I love it. It's like kind of my medicine.
Yeah, your go-to.
I yeah, I have to be careful because I am more prone to soft tissue injuries
Yeah.
and those kinds of things.
Yeah,
So
same. Yeah, but
yeah,
it's so interesting to learn, and it does. I think you can stop beating yourself up over certain things
yes,
because it's really outside of your control,
yeah, it's
right?
free.
Like,
It's
you you
freeing.
you you do what you can, and but, at the end of the day, you just can't beat yourself. You just try, right? You just keep trying.
It's
Um,
I think for me, like it's given me empathy around even my own kids, like their struggles and challenges.
yeah,
Like the snacking gene that came up for us. I was like,
so
my
interesting.
10-year-old, I'm always like, he's out there snacking all the time. And I'm like, now are you hungry? Do you need to drink a glass of water? And like now that I know, well, that's just us uniquely, like, right. So
Got a barking dog.
not a barking dog. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the dietary changes
Yeah.
um, that you typically recommend to boost fertility naturally, and if you can share any insight in terms of why these nutrients are so crucial, I think that
Yeah.
would be really insightful as well.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So I like to talk about the foods that you probably want to remove if you're really trying to optimize fertility. And this is, you know, again, I want to preface that everyone's unique. And but if you're really looking to lower inflammation in the body, what I generally have women do is cut out gluten and dairy. And it's not that those are bad foods. And some people do need to stay away from gluten, especially if they're
Mm,
celiac. And dairy for some can be, as we age, can be harder and harder to digest. And that protein's just so large, our body kind of struggles to break down. But those are like the two main inflammatory foods. Sugar, of course, is a big one for I think a lot of us. Like we have way more sugar than we even know in our diet. And it's kind of
it's
hidden.
huge.
Um, yeah, and then like processed foods are a problem, right? So I always coach people around sticking on the outsides of the grocery store. And honestly,
Mhm.
like if you live in a space where like you can, a farmer or have access to a community organization, a CSA, those are always really helpful. So those are kind of the things that I would say I would cut out.
Yep.
And then like the foods that really like fuel our body and that are helpful from a reproductive standpoint, I tend to go more towards a Mediterranean style
Mhm.
focus with my women and couples, really recommending like abundant fruits and vegetables, right? Organic if you can, because there's a lot of pesticides and herbicides sprayed
Right.
on our produce. Um,
Unfortunately.
yeah. And then like, good quality protein sources. I love salmon. Smaller fish are good because bigger fish have more toxins.
Yep.
So even like sardines and those can be beneficial.
Cannot
Uh,
get myself to like sardines. I
I know. I
just
know.
I'd like to, because for what you just said,
Yeah.
can't quite get myself there, but
And
yeah.
it's the same thing with like even beef liver, right? Like you can make a pate out of that. It's hard for people because we weren't raised, many of us were not raised on beef liver, but it is very nutritious.
Yeah.
And from a B vitamin standpoint and packed with great nutrients. And so and then getting into even the quality fats, right? I think that like you and I grew up in that era, around the same
Yeah,
eras.
we
Yeah, like low fat everything, all of those things, but we know how valuable quality fats are for
Yep,
optimizing fertility. And so really going for getting rid of those seed oils like that, the
that's huge.
canola oil, the vegetable oil, those are more inflammatory oils, and going for like avocado oil and extra virgin olive oil, adding in avocados and nuts and seeds and olives. Those are all great ways to add good quality fats to our diet, and really like nourish our cells and like optimize those cellular membranes that are
Yeah,
so important, that we want flexible so our nutrients and fuel can get in and out, right?
absolutely. Now, what are your thoughts on supplementation? Do
Yeah.
you do you use quite a bit of supplementation in your
Yeah,
practice?
I love supplements. I love supplements. I love herbs. But I think a word of caution with people is, you know, you want to know why you're taking what you're taking. And so again, going back to blood work can be really valuable in finding out when there's deficiencies and challenges. And another side of it is that unfortunately supplementation can become kind of like green pharma, where we're just taking all these pills, and
Mhm.
it can become expensive urine, right? And supplements are expensive.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I really like to strategize around, well, okay, I've got your DNA in front of me, or I've got your micronutrient testing that we've done, like a NutriEval, and I can
Mhm,
see, okay, well, okay, so Leslie needs like 200 more milligrams of magnesium in her diet.
mhm,
And I really coach people around getting as much quality food in their diet as they can. But I
mhm.
do think, given, and I'm not sure where you stand on this, Leslie, but given the nature of our food supply and all those things, like our the nutrient density of our foods is so much less than it was 50 years ago, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I think supplements can be so invaluable. And even I know with my unique genetics, I need way more vitamin D than the average person. I tend to
Same.
need more magnesium. I take more omegas because I've got more of inflammatory SNPs. So even like the IL-6 is another SNP that like is a problem for me as well. So
Okay. Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. So, and the other thing I worry about is, the actual absorption,
yeah.
right, of
Yeah.
some of these nutrients,
The
right?
gut is so important. So you need to have your gut optimized, especially if you're taking supplements, to make sure your body's taking full advantage of
Mhm,
those nutrients, right? So
mhm.
if there is like, most people are walking around with leaky gut and don't even know it. But getting to the root of, okay, what foods are triggering, which you can do food sensitivity testing. And I tell people, it's a tool. It's not going to be the end all be all. All these tests are great, but you also have to use clinical judgment and have a really solid health history to understand the unique dynamics.
I love that. All right. Well, as we start to wind down, can you tell us a little bit about where our audience can go today to learn more? To learn more about your work and, yeah, what do you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have a partner. She's out in Denver, and she's a doctor of osteopathy, and
Mhm,
is trained in functional medicine like me. So we've partnered together, and we are doing fertility coaching for couples. And we will be launching our first cohort in May. Just coming up here in about another month. And they can find us at www.positivityfertility.com. We have a waiting list, and there's a quiz on there, so you can go see the dynamic interplay in what's going on with your unique uh, oh health in relation to fertility. And then also, they can also find me on my own website, which is www.mandypatterson.com. And we have on there a free fertility and hormone success guide that talks about a lot of the things we talked about today, and helping them navigate walking through their fertility journey. And it's honestly, it's so helpful for even women that are struggling with hormone issues.
Okay, I
So,
love that. All right, well, as we start to wrap up, any, I guess, final words of wisdom that you'd like to impart with our audience today?
yeah, I think probably the biggest thing, and kind of was a theme throughout our conversation, is, just being gentle on ourselves, right? Like, there's so much to navigate in the health arena and the health space, and
Mhm.
just kind of taking a step back and doing some research. And if you don't know where to go, like find a trusted guide or mentor that can like get you there. And so kind of having that judgment free zone. And I know a lot of couples that struggle with infertility, there's a lot of judgment there, right? And it's, like I really talk about internal and external toxins in our programs, that we have. And like our own mental challenges can really hold us back in getting to where we need to be, so our mental blocks. So I think that. And I think another piece is just knowing that functional and naturopathic medicine is a great alternative, or can be used as an adjunct to conventional medicine in the approach of reproductive health and infertility, and even as we go into perimenopause and menopause.
Okay, I love that. All right. All right. I think, yeah, I'm looking to see. I don't think we have any more questions. So, listen, thank you so very much, Mandy. I greatly appreciate your time and
Yes, thank you,
your
Leslie.
willingness to join us today and, share your wisdom with our audience. So, really appreciate that. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Same place, same time. All right. Bye for now. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
Yeah.
Bye. Okay.